necessary, they are prepared to update it and pursue it and issue a final environmental assessment.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
And then my other question was following up on Member Kama's question about taking, maybe for Mr. Penniman. Is there like a number or a statute somewhere that says that, I mean, there needs to be only so many takings?
He's coming to the podium.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that question, Member Sinisi. The Endangered Species Act covers any taking at all. So one bird would be a taking.
And how do they enforce that?
By identifying infrastructure or situations or responsible parties that are the reason for that fallout to have happened.
Okay. All right. I'm just wondering how would the EPA get that information? Thank you, Chair.
Referring to the work that we do, we are a project of the University of Hawaii, and the data that we collect is freely shared. We have shared it with council members, we have shared it with the state, we have shared it with Corporation Council here. The data is publicly available.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Hodgins, first round.
Yeah, sure, thank you. I feel like I gotta figure out how to get my grandma on this Endangered Species Act as a pure Hawaiian. My other comment is Member Johnson, next week we have to go to HSAC, and can I request like a 30-minute pauhana with you so I can get your resume? Because every 2 weeks you're like, I did that before I was a council member. So I would love to just pick your brain one of these days, but that's next week. For this week and today, I want to ask about we had this conversation, I had this conversation with our former chief of staff when we were talking about Johnson lighting, and we were talking about the current law, if we don't change it, with the streetlights. So in order to make health and safety, how would we, and if this doesn't pass or something similar, how would we ensure health and safety with our existing streetlights? Do we have to readjust? Because as Mr. Law said, I think he mentioned dark spots. Would the lighting not touch each other, and would we have to just reposition all of our streetlights, or how would we make this make the most sense to accommodate a potential loss of life for birds and health and safety, and for all of us visually impaired like I am when I drive?
Director.
Thank you, Chair. Member Hodgins. So, one thing we don't get credit for is the way we organize our streetlights already seeks to minimize deployment. And so the way the county deploys streetlights is just in those critical traffic safety areas, cul-de-sacs, intersections, major collector roads. So we wouldn't necessarily be changing that practice. What happens is when we have incidents occur or upon request of community members, we do evaluate additional streetlight installations, and even some deactivations too have come across our office. And so that's the way we respond in terms of, if there are gaps, how would we address them? It would be driven by the conditions and the people that may be seeking that benefit of having additional street lighting.
So in order to address the deficit, if there is some, for lighting, what would we do currently if this doesn't pass?
It would typically happen with any sort of improvement project that we have at intersections. The light we've ordered is intended to replicate what was the emissions from the current lights, the HPSs, as far as coverage on the ground, but with the benefit of the shielding, the directionality of that. And so we anticipate the coverage is going to be more or less the same currently.
Okay.
But there are some areas that will see a little less light, but like I said, we're not intending to light up all our roadways to that extent.
Sure.
It is very targeted.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, so unless there was something prompting additional, we would not be changing that practice.
Okay, good to know. My next question is for MPD, for Chief Maeda. I feel like there has been somewhat, wait, is he here?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I feel like there's
Yep, I'm
either
here.
been an uptick in crime, or we either have been talking about it more. In the last few weeks, my brother-in-law's store, Hawaii Hunters, was broken into on the day of the tsunami. My friend's store at Ace Hardware was broken into. I think we were discussing, I think it was, well, all over the news about the ice cream shop in Ma'alai being broken into twice. How do you think these street lights and lights would help improve either deterring that crime or solving that crime?
I think it helps both. So actually, our crime is down 11% versus last year on property crimes. It might not seem like that, but our statistics show we are down 11%. But regarding the lighting, one of our biggest complaints that we get at MPD from our kupuna is insufficient lighting in the neighborhoods, insufficient lighting around businesses, and they just don't feel safe. And I understand a lot can happen in less than optimal lighting conditions, and it is a target for businesses. I'm not sure how much lighting was at that business of your relative that got broken into, but we can do an assessment over there. But in general, I'll give you a good example. Wailuku, Central Wailuku, we've had rash of crime lately, and we've had to let them know to increase their lighting, which has decreased people hanging out, people committing crimes, homeless in the area. What it does, it also helps because not everybody has infrared cameras as well, right? So a lot of people just have normal cameras, surveillance systems, and it works off the ambient lighting as well. And to ask businesses to purchase these high-tech cameras, it's a huge ask. So we ask them to get what we can, but the lighting, to us, it prevents a lot of crime. That's my answer.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Jack Curtin. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Yes, that's fine.
If you could introduce yourself, please.
Sure. My formal name is John W. Curran, but I go by Jack. So it's Jack Curran. I have a PhD in physics. I've been involved in a number of different industries. Starting in around 2002, I got involved in LED technology, developed the first LED fire signal, was involved with a company that was a chief technology officer for a company that did traffic signals and was using LEDs for the traffic signals. And then in 2008, I started my own company. And for about 9 years, the Department of Energy paid me to go around the country teaching pretty much anybody about LED technologies, talk to architects, building owners, facility managers, municipalities, electricians, kind of you name it. I did about 200 talks, I guess, all strictly on the subject of LED technology, what its strengths were, what its weaknesses were. Because when the LEDs first came out, there was a lot of misconceptions about what they were good at and what they weren't good at. And I thought it was important, if the technology was going to be able to come into play and start saving energy for people, that everybody needed to know exactly what was correct and what was maybe just marketing, kind of smoke and mirrors sometimes.
Thank you for your introduction. If you're available, I think Member Sugimura for her second round had requested.
Thank you.
Member Sugimura,
Yeah.
questions, second
Sure.
round?
Thank you for the introduction and thank you for being here. Your name came up in the Washington Post article that was submitted to us. It was written by Richard Moran, and this was November 3rd, 2022. And you're quoted in here talking about the bill that was passed by this council. And basically, if I could just read it a little bit, and then if you could reflect on that a little, and then about the current proposed bill. So Jack Curran, a New Jersey lighting consultant who evaluated the science behind this bill, said the council clearly didn't do their homework. The bill also requires that lighted surfaces be non-reflective with a matte surface if painted. As the island is coated in compliant black paint, current joke, Maui will end up looking like Halloween. So can you reflect upon a little bit about that, but more about the impact of the current bill before us with your expertise?
Sure. My concern, and to be honest, I don't remember talking to whatever the council was there. If you could give me just, I apologize, 1 minute. I was at another meeting and it's just getting out and they're closing the door, so I have to grab my material. It'll take me 1 minute to get it, okay? And I'll be back.
Is that okay?
Okay, we'll take a 5-minute recess,
Okay. Then he can come.
returning at 11:08.
Can we do 10?
10.
Okay, we'll take a 10-minute recess. We'll return at 11:13 a.m.
Did you all know you come?
law. The WAI Committee of September 2nd, 2025 will now reconvene at 11:14 a.m. We were in discussion with the departments, and I believe, Member Sugimura, you completed your questions? Or,
Yeah, so then Mr. Curran
Oh, okay.
went off for a brief break. But I just wanted to, the article that I was reading from Washington Post quotes you as saying the council clearly didn't do our homework regarding the lighting bill. And what I wanted to hear from you is then, what is your opinion about what is being proposed today? Which, yeah, that was gonna be my second part of the question.
Mr. Curran?
Sure. Well, what I think what is being proposed today to me is a more reasonable approach. It's very critical in terms of if I could just give a quick example. If I had a red ball and I took it into a black room and lit the ball up with white light, I would see that red ball. If I turned that light to red and I lit it, I would see the red ball. But if I took a blue light or a green light and shone that again in that room at that red ball, I would see nothing. Because color it has two functions or two aspects. It has to do with what that object reflects in terms of wavelengths, and then what light is being shown on it. If I have a red ball and the red ball is not getting any red light, it will look black. So the color and the whole idea of color of lighting, people don't tend to realize that as much. They think color is an inherent characteristic of the object, but it's the object as well as the light that's shining on it. And so if you have a proposal that is pulling out a large portion of the blue section of the light, then the light that's left over is not going to give you a representation of the image that's there.
Okay.
And one way that people measure that your eye can sense contrast is by if I'm standing on a dark road and it's black behind me, and I'm sitting there in like a green jacket and there isn't green light coming down from that street light, I as a driver, I'm not going to be able to see that person. So the whole idea of color rendering index is very, very critical, because if you don't have the colors in the light, then the colors aren't there to be able to reflect. And the contrast that you get, and contrast is critical for people driving.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. But just because my time is limited, and I wanted to ask Director Molina about dim lighting and based upon what Mr. Curran just said.
Director?
Thank you, Member Sugimura. Yeah, so, with this proposal and that improvement with color rendering, it allows us to use less light. In the absence of that color rendering, we need to put out more light to achieve the same lighting desired for the roadway safety. So this change, in our opinion, is environmentally sensitive and beneficial because of that ability to use less light, which is compensated by that color rendering ability. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Thank you. Member Johnson, and then since it's 11:18, I would like us to all keep our questions concise, the answers concise. Thank you very much. Member Johnson, it's your turn for second round.
Okay, Chair, thank you. I'll try to follow those heeds. So we're policymakers here. This is a policy decision on this bill. Right now, there's a lot of lawsuits swirling around this bill, which concerns me. And I think good policy comes out of being proactive instead of being reactive to lawsuits and the threat of lawsuits. That's just not a good way to do business, in my opinion. I want to direct this to Mr. Bilberry. Let's say this bill passes and we get another lawsuit on our hands. what, that habitat conservation plan that Kauai is doing, that could be one of the things that we would be required to do is a habitat conservation plan. And then it might end up just saying you got to replace those lights, and we're back at square one, where in fact we costly spent a lot of money defending it and then having to do the things anyways. That's my concern. The idea that a taking, if it's deemed a taking, it turns into mitigation, and mitigation is very expensive. So that's what I'm trying to avoid here. I'd like to hear Mr. Bilberry's take on all this, if you will.
Yeah, this is not reactive to a lawsuit at all. It's reactive to a mistake that was made by trying to restrict streetlights to 2% blue light and basically rendering the color ability of the streetlights ineffective and unsafe. So it's not a reaction to a lawsuit, it's a reaction to a project that was initiated a few years ago to replace obsolete HPS streetlights that are over 4 decades old that were not rendering color adequately for purposes of roadway applications. As far as lawsuits swirling, we don't have swirling lawsuits. We have one that's concluded. We have one pending now, which really doesn't have anything to do with blue light. And we've been told by the litigants in that lawsuit that whether we comply with the ordinance as it currently exists or not, they're still going to pursue that lawsuit. So
I guess that's my reference, is
yeah, so it doesn't matter.
It's-
What I'm telling you is it doesn't matter, because if you don't fix the problem with street lighting today, we're still being sued. So there really isn't any reason not to go ahead and do what needs to be done, which is put an exemption in place so that Maui County has adequate lighting for its roadways and mitigates. I mean, we got a light that not only mitigates against roadway accidents, but that is also environmentally responsive. We can dim these lights at any location, any time of the year, to
Okay.
whatever percentage dim they need to be in order to accommodate seabirds.
Let me follow up on that dimming of lights. Director Molina, can you share with us how that would work? You have to reach out to Miko? Is there some kind of coordination going on? Do you have the capacity to dim lights and saying fledgling season?
If I can get clarity on how to proceed, that'll give me some capacity greatly. But yes, it would take coordination with HECO. Additional equipment would need to be purchased. But all of that is prompted by the ability to safely dim those lights and still maintain the lighting on the roadway that we feel is safe.
You need clarity because of the lawsuits?
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Member Kama, second round.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question for Mr. Penniman. Very simple. Is he still here?
He's coming to the podium.
Okay, thank you. You know, earlier we were talking about your data and how you keep your data. Is it possible to get that data, Mr. Penniman?
Which data would you like to have?
The data that says how you track the fallen birds that we're talking about in this bill, and how they are tracked and the outreach that's done, and who does the outreach, and all of that.
We could put together a response to that, yes.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate that so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
And then I had a question for our second resource.
Mr.
Let me
Curran,
just find the,
or
no, Glesna? I think that was his name.
Yes,
He
ma'am.
was, I was reading in the, I gotta go find it, I lost it. He had written, under item 7, on his, that he had sent to us, I got it out of Granicus. Number 7, I think, Thomas Glesney, is that how you say your name?
Yes, good morning, Councilman.
Good morning. So I think it was item 7, and I was trying to understand what you're trying to say about the color.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. In terms of color rendering index, I think it's been covered fairly well, but what I was trying to say is that there's two types of vision. There's scopic, which is what we see during the daytime, or I'm sorry, that's in dim light vision, which is how we see with the rods in our eyes, versus photopic, which is what we see in daytime or bright light conditions, which is with the cones in our eyes. And so there's different sensitivities to those two parts of the eye. And therefore, I'll throw in another term, mesoptic, is really what we see in a streetlight configuration, because we have a dim light background and a brighter light in the foreground. So how do the eyes interact with that is a very interesting physics-based effect. And it's true that the really bright white lights, the 5,000 Kelvin lights, those can cause all kinds of glare, which is really irritating and dangerous when you're driving. But likewise, at less than 2,000 Kelvin, you're not seeing colors, you're not seeing depth of field, and your perception and your speed in which you can actually recognize things is diminished. So while there are no universal standards for lighting levels, and they all have to be taken into consideration with where they are and how busy the traffic is, it is a consideration. And, we feel that this light at 2,700 Kelvin is kind of the optimal situation where you can adapt, as everyone has said, to environmental conditions and dim, or have it turn off when there's no traffic, turn on when there is. You can meet both of these effects by considering how the vision of our eyes work. And we also need to consider how the vision of shorebirds work.
Correct. That's what I was getting at, is that we all have different vision, right? Some of us need contacts, some of us need glasses, some of us need to have laser surgery, whatever. But all of our eyes, I think, perform differently under different circumstances. So thank you. I heard the bell, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kama. Chair Lee, you need a second round of questions?
No, I'm ready to vote and to support. Thanks.
Councilmember Paulton, do you have a second round of questions?
Yeah, I might need a physicist. I'm not sure. I read further down. How can you tell if string lights are less than 2.8 or less than 50 lumens? Because it doesn't really say that on the box. So, like, are people buying illegal string lights? How can you tell?
Mr. Kernan?
Yeah, the string lights you're talking about are like the things that people hang out for parties and stuff like that.
Or at the hotels, they just use them 24/7. They run them hard.
Okay.
Like from Costco kind.
You can get a relatively inexpensive light meter that will tell you what the light output is. Like it's a little sensor you put on the ground, and it's got any kind of meter, it's got a display.
Oh, you got to use a meter. You can't just it's not anywhere on the packaging or anything. You got to use equipment.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you buy a light bulb, let's say at a Home Depot or a Lowe's or something like that, that will have the lumen output right on it, as well as usually the color temperature. But the cheaper the light, sometimes the less.
Thanks. I got a question for Director Molina next. On the 2.8 and 50 lumen, is that per light bulb or is it the cumulative? 2.8 watts or 50 lumens?
Thank you, Member Paulton. As we interpret the ordinance, we understand that to be each light bulb.
Okay. And then when you're saying you have to buy more equipment for the dimming, is the warranty still good on those lights if you were to put filters or what?
We'd have to
Or if
explore
you
it.
put the filter, it discontinues the warranty?
Well, the
period?
issue is if the filtering causes the CRI to decline, we wouldn't be able to dim because now we're losing the effects of that light on the roadway illumination. And so that's a direct conflict with what we're trying to achieve by using light that has adequate color rendering so that we can use less intense lighting.
Okay, and then you said you have to buy more equipment, so we wouldn't just be putting up what we have. We gotta get more equipment in order to dim and install that as well.
Correct. It's a nodule that goes on the light fixture itself that controls the dimming.
Are we planning on doing that or no? How expensive is it?
It'll be, I mean, it'll add to the cost. It's not, it's not significantly more than the light fixture itself. I think that the more problematic issue is the coordination with HECO and establishing clear MOUs on who's directing the dimming of lights and when, for concerns about liability and future lawsuits.
Okay, I heard the bell. Hopefully, 2023 Lahaina Town, there were no seabird fallouts because we didn't have a Lahaina Town.
Thank you, Member Paulton. Member Rollins Fernandez, do you need a second round of questions?
Mahalo, Chair. Okay. So I had to organize, my thoughts because it's kind of like all over the place. So here's the competing concerns as I organize it. So there's the welfare of the birds, safety of humans, crime committed by humans, not by birds. There's bird advocates whose priority is the birds, police whose priority is human safety, and then public works whose priority is infrastructure. Humans can be so destructive and intrusive to other creatures we share this earth with, especially the higher the concentration of humans. And it's the systems that exacerbate disparity and housing and economic insecurity that increase crime, not bad lighting. So where is the sweet spot for limiting impact to already struggling native bird populations, human welfare, and county operations? Personally, I don't want to play a role in not doing enough to prevent our native birds from being pushed to extinction. But of course, I want our people to be safe too. So here are the questions as I kind of understand the issues. Whether it's the brightness, color, or both that cause the harm to seabirds. Do the lights that Public Works recommend harm seabirds? How do we measure that harm to seabirds? Do the lights recommended by the bird advocates create an unsafe environment for humans? How do we measure that? And then ultimately, as policymakers, whose information will we accept as the most credible to answer these questions? Like Member Hodgins stated, I don't want a he said, she said. I'd love for collaboration. And just as Member Johnson said, lawsuits are resource consuming, and I don't particularly want to continue down that path either. So those are my questions. I don't really I would like to have answers to those questions before I vote. And so I don't, whoever wants to take a stab at that.
I would love to, if
I would
may.
start off by saying, excuse me.
Go ahead.
If you want to ask us about potential liability for amending the lighting ordinance, we would have to go into executive session to discuss that. I don't see that as something that I would be concerned about as a county lawyer, getting sued for amending the lighting code. That's a legislative act, which is perfectly within your prerogative to do. So that would hopefully answer one question. Again, and I'll just stop with this. The lawsuits here aren't the issue. The issue here is, on the one hand, making sure that we're not creating a bad environment for wildlife, which I think we have a street light that mitigates against that, and making sure that we also have adequate illumination for public safety. Lawsuits have nothing to do with this. We're going to be dealing with lawsuits regardless of what you do here today. And right now, there's one pending which doesn't bear on what you're being asked to do today and will not bear on what you're being asked to do today.
Thank you. Does that answer your question? Did you hear the bell?
I had several questions, and that's one person's opinion. I did hear someone else trying to speak, but I couldn't tell who that was.
This is Tom Glesney.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I think one thing that was lost from the presentation is that the percentage of light that the birds see and what we term sky glow is really limited to something on the order of 10 to 12% of all of the light emanated upwards in Maui. And the street lights being full cutoff fixtures don't emanate any light straight up. All of that light is coming reflected off of the ground, whether it be grass or asphalt or concrete. And blue light, while we know blue light scatters readily, it's the reason our sky is blue or appears blue, is that the blue light can scatter very quickly, but it's also not very reflective. Asphalt is not very reflective. So the street lights themselves don't contribute that much light. It's the lights you see on the side of the building that are broadcasting out. The cheaper lights are 5,000 Kelvin, so they are very rich in the blue, 25% typically. And so the lighting ordinance, as was set previously, restricting blue light for all of the outdoor lights, is an incredible effort to reduce the amount of light that the birds will encounter. So street lights being only 10% of that makeup is really somewhat de minimis in terms of what the issue, the really crux of this issue is. It really isn't down to the street lights alone. It's really to the rest of the lighting in Maui County.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, Member Rollins?
Mahalo, Mr. Glesney. I mean, like I said, I listed about like 7 questions. So those are some responses to a couple of the questions, but that's fine. I did hear the timer.
Thank you. Member Sinensi? You have second questions? Considering our
Chair,
time.
yeah, Member Johnson had asked Director Molina about, I guess because of the lawsuits, if he can expound on that.
Director?
He needs direction for the lawsuits.
Director.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I've been entrenched in multiple lawsuits, but as Mr. Bilberry has clarified, there is only one currently, and it is not necessarily addressing this matter of the blue light specifically, but it is affecting how we proceed. And I think if we get support for this motion today, not only does it help our position in these lawsuits, because we believe we are taking the responsible approach on all fronts, public safety, environmental, and even administratively. You know, what is more wasteful than being poor stewards of our resources? And that's what this endeavor, in my experience, has been, by not allowing us to implement, see the effects, make changes, you know, improve upon and continue. We've been in a stalemate because of it. And to me, that is the most wasteful part of all this, which is a far greater harm than whether a percentage of the 10% of light out there needs to be a certain color or not. I mean, I think everyone will agree that the emissions generally is the problem. And to make an analogy, it's like litter. We have ordinances that ban particular types of litter, but we don't have ordinances that says don't litter. I mean, that it's okay to litter. And that's what I see as the emissions. Like, we need to reduce emissions, and then we can start talking about the particular types of emissions and refining that. But we need to do the first step of putting things in place that allow us to reduce our emissions overall, which we think our proposal gets us there and balances it all. So thank you.
When you use emissions, you mean like light pollution?
Correct.
Just
The overall
I guess,
output.
refraction. Okay, and then Bert Paulton asked about those dimmers. So having these dimmers would also help you to address some of these lawsuits. Would they be dim during when there's the fledglings are flying? Would you only use certain in like not in South Maui and high traffic areas like Kuihelani, where you see an increase of car? I mean, I live in Hana. Most of the road coming out to Hana, there is no street light. So we just blast our highlights. So it's not about not seeing anything. You just can't see anything at all. You just use your highlights. A lot of the new cars have LED lighting. So,
Director?
are those some of the things that you need with this new ordinance?
Thank you, Member Senensi. I mean, the dimming is one strategy for mitigation that we would be able to consider if we have lighting that allows us to use dimmer lights and still maintain public safety. And so that's the crux of the issue here today, is the absence of that color rendering inhibits our ability to reduce our emissions. And we would be looking at targeted solutions for those areas that are more problematic than others as part of the mitigation strategy. Thank you.
And areas that might have higher seabird and sea turtle populations. You wouldn't necessarily. Okay, sorry, I heard the bell, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Hodges, second, final.
Thank you. I appreciate the conversation between finding this balance between the amount of light and the color of light, and I appreciate the conversation regarding dimming, especially dimming during the fledgling season. Director Molina, you said we would need to buy those nodules. I would assume it's those black caps that were shown in the picture, as described, as well as figure out, I think you said, a clear MOU with probably HECO to figure out whose responsibility it is to do that. What's our timeline that we're looking at?
We don't have anything set currently, but based on the conversion schedule that we previously had from HECO, it'll probably be with less than a year to purchase and install from when HECO can schedule the work.
Okay.
So that part is relatively easy, and then within that time frame, we could work on what that operating agreement with HECO is.
Okay, because we would only be purchasing, as you described, that little nodule, because we already have the lights. We bought $3 million worth of lights, and we've been storing them for how many years?
Since 2018, I believe, or 2019.
We've been storing $3 million of lights since 2018.
And not getting energy savings along with it.
And not getting, how many, okay, we won't get into how much we probably lost out in that. When do we, with the existing bill, if this does not pass, when must we be in compliance?
So October of next year, 2026, July.
July.
Is when the current ordinance sets the deadline.
July 1, 26, must be in compliance. Okay. Okay then. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you all. So Chair's questions. As far as like the shielding, Director, what I understand is that you don't need shielding because it's all aiming down. Is that correct for the particular lights that you have in inventory that you would like to install? Do they need shielding, and are they more energy efficient? And if so, by how much?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So shielding refers to a light's ability to shine above the horizontal plane. And so the lights we did purchase achieve that effect by being full cutoff, so they don't allow light to emit up, except when it's reflecting off other objects. And then, yes, we currently operate HPS lights, which are not efficient. LEDs are much more efficient, is what we intend to replace the streetlights with LEDs, so that'll achieve energy savings and cost savings. Thank you.
So could you give an estimate of the cost of what it currently costs for the county streetlights with the current lights, and what the electrical costs would be after we replace them with the existing?
From what I recall in the initial proposals, it was approximately $500,000 of savings, energy savings by converting, was the.
Per year?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So, could you describe the time sensitivity of this? The chair would like to, for the members, the chair would like to pass this on a committee today. We have first reading, second reading. I'd like the director to clarify why I'm requesting that, because of the time sensitivity. I would also ask our resource people for the questions that were asked that you didn't have time or appropriate preparation for. If you could please submit any and all information that you would like to submit to the committee that staff you'd be able to receive, is that correct? How could what's the proper instructions for somebody to submit written testimony?
Yeah, they can send that to the committee email, which is wai.committee@mauicounty.us.
Thank you. The chair's intention is I would like us to receive any and all of the information to make as best decision as possible. We'll be able to review that information, be able to ask the department, and then in first reading, this will be able to be heard again. I'd like to get it on a committee because I think we've had a thorough discussion, and I think that the needs of the department, what they're requesting, is time sensitive. I also would like to point out that the existing lights aren't meeting anybody's requirements, that are costing us approximately $500,000 a year in electricity, which is also just not environmentally akamai. So does any of the resource people have any closing comments? Seeing none. Sir, coming down to the podium.
Thank you, Chair. First, to the issue of shielding. The shielding that is necessary for these birds is not just the full cutoff. The birds fly by at the ocean level. So the shielding needs to provide not only upward, but toward the ocean shielding. One small point. I think that the committee, if you're voting now to move this on to the full council, needs to understand that this morning you've had expert testimony from those that are in favor of moving this legislation along and getting on with what they perceive as needs to be done. You have not heard from experts, and I am a seabird biologist. I am not a physicist. Do not make any claim to that. I depend on research that's done by others who do that. And we have others who would perhaps present the committee with a different point of view than the expert witnesses that have been lined up and arranged. With the short timing that we have had, we've had no capacity to do that. So thank you for that.
Thank you, sir. The chair recognizes that, and that's why I'm requesting and asking for that testimony, that information to be submitted that will be able to be digested and taken into consideration. Chair wants all sides to basically be heard. This issue, basically Public Works would like to move forward with the light fixtures they have. If the information is given and first reading, determination could be made. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So So seeing no further discussion, any further discussion? Chair would like to move on to decision-making. The chair would like to entertain a motion to recommend passage of Bill 109 on first reading.
So move.
Second.
Okay, so moved by Member Sugimura, seconded by Chair Lee, to recommend passage of Bill 109 on first reading. Members, any discussion before I move on to my amended summary form?
Oh, go ahead.
Chair.
Member Rollins Fernandez.
Mahalo, Chair. Earlier you stated that you were gonna invite Director Molina to explain the time sensitivity. I don't think you did.
Okay, if you could clarify the time sensitivity again, Director.
Thank you, Chair. Member Hodgins touched on it as far as that July 2026 deadline. Given the coordination needed with HECO to implement that, that is why we need, or we're requesting this amendment so that we can ensure that we are not in conflict with that deadline with compliance under the current ordinance. Thank you.
Mahalo, Chair.
Okay,
I'll have further discussion after your amendment summary form and everything.
okay, members, your chair would like to entertain a okay, wait a minute. I move to amend the summary form.
I move to substitute the bill with the ASF.
Second.
Moved by Member Paulton, seconded by
Chair Lee.
Chair Lee.
Discussion?
Discussion? Got lost?
For my discussion, I just wanted to clarify, my understanding of the string lights. Sorry, I see them everywhere. I live on the west side. Is that if they're for holiday lights or Obon festivals and they're 2.8 or 50 lumens or less, you can have string lights. Otherwise, they gotta be shielded. And by shielded, like covered with like paper lantern or facing down and away from the ocean. Is that correct, Mr. Molina?
That's correct, Member Paulton.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my discussion.
Thank you. And Chair, obviously, you got a little lost for a minute. So motion made by Councilmember
Paulton.
Tamara Paulton, and seconded by Chair Lee to substitute Bill 109 with the proposed CD1 version. Members, this ASF amends the bill's title and purpose statement for clarity and consistency. It incorporates non-substantive and technical revisions for clarity, consistency, and style. Is there any further discussion? Member Rollins Fernandez.
Mahalo, Chair. I'll vote for this motion to amend, but I'm planning to vote against the main motion as amended. I think if we're concerned about July 2026, I understand the time that it takes to coordinate efforts with HECO. But also, I don't know, this is how we end up, continue to be entangled in lawsuits when there isn't enough collaboration in coming up with a solution that is satisfactory with everybody.
Okay, thank you, noted. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
This for the substitution.
Chair, you have 9 ayes, 0 noes. The motion carries. You're back to the main motion as amended.
Thank you, members. Now we're back to the main motion as amended. Any further discussion? Member Sinensi?
Thank you, Chair. I too was hoping that we could get more collaboration. Some of my concerns are the takings, and I would hope that the department, should it pass or not, make sure that we don't have any takings should this ordinance pass through or not. We've already heard from Mr. Henkin that Oahu has pretty much, decimated their bird populations because of all of their light pollution. Another thing was, although traffic safety was one of the issues on WAI, I would hope that the department would concentrate on those stretches of highway where the speed limit is increased. Where the downward streetlights could happen first. But as far as, rural roads, we can still use, there's other safety mitigations that we can do as well, including signage, including whether it be speed bumps or light reflectors on the road. So I'm hoping that the department would consider some of these other safety measures in specific areas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member. Member Paulton, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be supporting at this time due to what Mr. Molina said about if you have the color thing, then it doesn't need to be quite as bright, as was Mr. Bilberry saying that it's a 2.5% difference. From where I sit, the real problem is the shoreline lights from the resort areas. I'm gonna be calling in the ones or emailing in the ones I see because I see that far more as a problem if we're talking about percentages. And I do get complaints from people about the lighting in my area quite often. That one lady that got relocated out here saying it was so dark, but I mean, it seems normal to me. And I hope we don't go putting street lights on all our rural areas, but our high traffic areas, yeah. So I'll be supporting it. I think if we really want to collaborate, it would be great if Earth Justice or Department of Public Works send some information to the resort areas regarding those string lights and those lights shining out onto the ocean. That would be great because I think that's a higher percentage to me. There wasn't any new study in the last 5 years that I've heard of that cites the blue light. As Mr. Law was saying, something about yellow or orange lights. So I think that if we get the color content, then we don't have to have as bright lights because I just was looking at this SOS and it says when there's no moon, it's dark, and then so the artificial lights really affect it. So I think having less light is important. I haven't seen any studies in the last 5 years specifically talking about blue light or yellow light or red light. So less light is what I'm hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Member. So, ready to vote? No, you comment?
Oh, so I have a question. So I just want to make sure that our department will be able to comply based upon what he said, coordination with HECO. And because this ordinance shall take effect upon approval. So if we approve if it does pass, do we need to adjust that compliance
Director.
date?
No, with the amendment, we'll be able to comply.
You will, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, members, do we require, okay, Member Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. This is honestly, if I can speak from my heart, this was tough for me to consider if I would vote to support it. I think collaboration is missing in this bill, and boy, I don't want to rehash the old bill. It was pretty contentious, but I like when we collaborate with the departments. I could see that there was work done on this bill. I think if we are doing this bill for the different points of view, such as safety, such as environmental, such as, infrastructure, there should be common ground we all have. And I'm not sure, I can see there was an opportunity to be more collaborative, and I think we missed that opportunity. But at the end of the day, if there are knobs to turn it down, turn the lights down during fledgling season, and I know speaking with Director Molina, that's the intention. I think I still have reservations, but I might lean to support it. And I know voting yes with reservations is it's a yes, okay? And I'm saying it the way I feel, because I have been on the fence. I was gonna vote no when I first read this bill, and then coming in, hearing that there was work done to collaborate. I just don't think it was enough. But I'm in my explanation, I'm still hemming and hawing. And that's part of the job, right? Like, part of it is there's no simple bill. There's nothing as black and white. The amount of work that I personally have done for the Oahu's and the Oahukanis, that was a lot of work. Hiking 7 miles a day up a mountain, planning, doing the work to protect these birds. And now when I take the ferry over between Maui and Lanai, I see those Oahu's. I see the Oahukanis on the water. And that's a noticeable distance for me. So I am biased, okay? I'm just saying it, all right? But man, you guys, we got to help those birds, I don't want all that work, that all the outreach folks, all the people with the boots on the ground, the guys who came and spoke, they're out there in the streets and trying to help those birds up on the mountains. I know I'm not giving a very clear answer here, because this is a tough one for me. So right now, I might vote yes with reservations.
Okay, thank you. So, Member Rollins Fernandez, should I make a roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Okay. Member Kama,
Yes.
Member Sugimura,
Yes.
Member Paulton,
Aye.
Member Johnson,
Yes.
Member Rollins Fernandez,
No.
Chair Lee,
Aye.
Member Hodges,
Aye.
and Chair's aye. I apologize. Since you're not in my line of sight, Shane, I apologize. Member Sinensi, your vote?
Thank you, Chair. I'll support with reservations, and then just so that I have reserved second reading for my final. Thank you.
Understood.
Thank you, Chair. That's 8 ayes and 1 no. The motion passes.
Okay. Thank you, members. This concludes today's Water and Infrastructure Committee meeting. Thank you, everyone, for being here for a great meeting. The time is now 12:02. I want to thank all of our resource people who are in the chambers and who also are online for coming and helping give information and some depth and perspective to this. I encourage people are welcome to please submit additional testimony, additional information. We do want to hear from it. This meeting at 12:03 is now adjourned.
Good job, Chair.